Welcome to the Punchline with Kelly Pavlik and James Dominguez, but today we got Brian Juan.
Second time on here, so I was gonna pass myself off to James Dominguez. I mean, he's been hitting the gym hard, you know. So
I'm telling you, you just gotta get that little front cap, 805.
let me get this point turned in.
Yeah, so you know James is out of town again, and he will be back. Okay. James will be back here. I don't know what day he's coming home for sure. I don't know if it's Friday, Saturday. I'm sure he'll chime in, but that's what we're doing. A lot to talk about this week, and a lot of big fights. And you know, you guys ask the questions. You know how this goes, and Brian's going to answer. I'm going to get on the YouTube here shortly. What's going on with you?
We got Tim Gordon chiming in. Hey, I'm pulling a doubleheader today. I'm gonna be on air with you. Then from here, I'm gonna go pick up Vinny O'Neill up at Southside Boxing Club, and then from there, we're gonna go do our show at 8 o'clock on WesternReserveRadio.com. Right. But hey, I don't know if you saw, but your boy Chris Bone Henderson, he's always posting stuff, you know, daily on boxing. And I guess Oscar Valdez got injured during that fight.
Oh, what's gonna happen?
I think it was maybe a broken hand. He broke that hand during that fight or something like that. So that was disappointing to see, man. As he impressed, you know what I mean. And the one thing I've noticed about Valdez is he fights with a high fighter IQ.
Well, yeah, somebody else just got hurt too. They pulled out. Who was that? Was it Mars?
Mars, and I'm also hearing the early reports was like an arm injury. Now I'm hearing maybe a detached retina, possibly.
Yeah.
There's nothing that's really, you know what I mean. You keep injuries private, you know what I mean. You keep that amongst yourselves, so nobody knows the truth about it. But the detached retina, I mean, you're kind of playing with some fire there, especially for a guy. He's what, 30, 38 years, 37, around there. So. Vinny actually sparred Abner Maris, and he said that he's the hardest guy he's ever.
No, I know Abner's with Garcia Camp, and you know all that. So a lot going on with that. I just surprised that close to a fight that they would allow him to get injured. You know what I mean? Or not saying that they would allow him, but you know whatever the situation was that you got injured. But then again, you know we used to spar before my fight. I was sparred out Monday before. And we only do 4 rounds, but still, even then, you can still get hurt and hurt something or whatnot. So
it's kind of like high school football, man. Day before a game, you just kind of go helmets and shorts, just do a quick little walkthrough, no contact.
And you can roll an ankle still. It's not.
Got Julian Johnson chiming in saying both injuries are bad.
What's up, Steven? So now I'm waiting to get to the YouTube here in a second, guys, and I'll be able to answer some of them questions. But guys, whatever fight you want to start off with, go ahead and ask.
Donovan Cass, Burchell pulled out of his rematch against Vargas.
Why was that, Donovan? I didn't even kept up on it.
That's news to me. So
yeah,
I go to work 4 to 1, pick up my daughter, do homework with her, and sometimes people always, you know, that's the thing about boxing is, you know, you talk to the people and all they care about is, you know, those maybe 3 big fights a year if they don't follow. And I'm like, dude, you could follow this sport, and there's a big fight almost every weekend. You follow it enough, so.
Now, there was this week, well, shit, might as well just tap into it. Kovalev fight. Did you get to watch that?
I didn't get to watch it live, so I passed out. But I turned off the Super Bowl and turned it onto my ESPN Plus app, and that's what I watched instead of the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I think I won doing that. I don't want to say I was surprised, but I was a little surprised. I kept waiting for him to fade as that fight went on. He's 35 years old. And he's a guy who hasn't made the money that you would think that someone of his level has been. And so a win like that, you know, I'm happy for him. That's going to put him in line for some more paydays.
And I want to get into that with Kovalev and the camp, and just how I always explain to people, and I try to explain it over and over and over, like, you cannot always believe what you hear. You cannot always believe what you hear, and I'm going to get into that. Julian Johnson says, Davis ever going to really fight someone his size? I don't know. He's got to fight somebody soon here too himself. But he put it earlier today, so the fight was postponed. I was disappointed in Alvarez. I am drained. Okay, here's my thing with Kovalev. Oh crap! Hold on. Prime Jermaine Taylor 160 versus Danny Jacobs. Who's wins? I'm trying to hold off on this Kovalev, because I kind of want to keep that for the middle part. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what me and James do. So I'm sorry, guys. I'm going to get into the Kovalev. I'm going to take a couple of the YouTube real quick. Lazy Fat Carol says, prime Jermaine Taylor at 160 versus Danny Jacobs. Who wins? Let me say this. I'm picking Taylor, not because I fought him, but here's the thing. I think Danny Jacobs right now could be one of the best middleweights out there. I truly do. I think with the size, his boxing ability, he could fight. The only issue, and me and James tapped on it, is Danny Jacobs only fights in spurts, and he shows excellence during that period, but he only does it for a short period of time, and that's it. Now let's go back and think about it with the Triple G fight. He was getting beat in that fight, and he got dropped, and then that lit a fire under his ass, and he came back in that fight and almost won it, and showed that how good his boxing ability is, how strong he is, and he almost won that fight. And then in his last couple fights after that, he's sharp. He goes in there for like 2 minutes of that round and just does amazing things, and then he quits. I think against the Jermaine Taylor, who was a hell of a boxer, and people can say what they want, I don't think that he would be able to do that. He would not be able to take those breaks against a guy like Jermaine Taylor and win that fight. I don't even have it close. People seem to forget that Jermaine Taylor, when he fought Carl Froch, supposedly after he was beat up, washed up, and I supposedly ruined him, and he was beating a Carl Froch that everybody to this day holds in high regards, and he was beating him for the entire fight. He could have actually took another knee and have won that fight. He was beating Arthur Abraham all the way up to the last round, and then got knocked out in the last round. I take Taylor in that fight. Now, Danny Jacobs, that I know that knows how to fight for the whole 12 rounds, I'll tell you what, you got a very interesting fight there, because Danny Jacobs is that good. So,
Yeah, I think people sometimes forget how good Jermaine Taylor was. Absolutely.
yep. You got any other one?
Let's see here. Hey, James, warming up your chair for you. James Dominguez says, what's up, fellas? Miss you all.
Stephen Casper, why is everybody down with Alvarez's performance? Alvarez only won 5 of 19 rounds in 2 fights. Stephen, that's a really good point. And I'm going to get into that. You know, what I said earlier, I wanted to talk about this fight in the middle part. Alvarez kind of was there hoping what happened in the last fight. I think Alvarez was just waiting for Kovalev to get tired. And just like he did in the last fight, he did in the 7th round again. He picked it up in this 7th round of the last fight. But I think it was a little too late. But I'm going to get into that. Pittsburgh Hole says, I heard Kovalev dominated but didn't get to watch. He dominated without dominating. I don't know how else to explain it. He won the fight definitely, though, convincingly.
I think I have him winning 10 out of 12 rounds, maybe. I think that's about how I scored it.
Yeah. But might as well just get into it. Lunkin Lunker says, Buddy McGirt helped and it showed.
Yeah.
No, Devon. He says, just announced earlier today, any thoughts on Shakur Stevenson fighting Christopher Diaz on the Crawford Khan undercard? Seems like a great step up in competition. I hope so. I think that's what he needs right now. He's one of them guys. A lot of these other prospects are, actually getting out there and they're being televised and against good competition. I think Shakur needs a little bit more of that, and I think he'll be ready to go.
Speaking of prospect, I was reading a lot of stuff today, actually, and a lot of people are saying now Lopez is no longer just a prospect.
I could get in that fight too.
Talk about sworn fights comment with Silva.
I didn't even get to see it.
Big on the UFC stuff.
Is that in the? Oh, okay. Hey guys, welcome back.
Silva can whip that kid's ass, and that's going to be a good fight.
Do you want to talk about that? Justin, our producer, said that Sylvia would whip that kid's ass.
Not would, but could.
Could.
It's a good fight, but it's definitely not the end of him. That kid's not proven as much. Silva's last couple losses that he did have were against the best of the best. It's still current champions. He lost to Cormier a couple times ago. He won his last fight. This kid just got off of the show.
I got it.
What's the show that they did? The Ultimate Fighter. That kid won that, and then he won his last one, and now he gets a shot at
How many seasons of that is there out right now?
I don't know.
I gotta go watch. I am going to catch up on it though.
Timothy Gordon wants to know when's the next fight. The Punchline will be tending live, and it looks like James Dominguez already chimed in
What's
with
up?
Spence and Garcia.
Yep. What's up, James? Yeah, we're going to the Spence Garcia fight. That's going to be great, guys. We're going to be able to cover a lot in that fight. Mikey's camp, we're going to be there a couple days before, and it's going to be pretty neat. We're going to ask Mikey questions. We're going to be around, you know, the hotel with him and everything else. And you guys will get a nice little close-up of what's going on as much as we're allowed to show of what he's got going before the fight. So, Ward said Kovalev is a natural hard puncher. If he boxes and throws volume, it scares his opponents. He got away from pure boxing for a while and loaded his punches before McGirt. Lazy Fat, Carol Cat, I agree, but I don't agree. And that's what I wanted to get into with this real quick. Why it seems a little pointless. Hold on, these fucking...
Yeah, I want to chime in on that one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Crawford and Khan, pointless. I mean, I got no issues with that fight. I mean, you're bringing fan bases from both sides of the pond together for that. I think people are underestimating Khan in this one. I'm not saying that he's got a solid chance to win, but you go back, you watch Khan fight against... when he fought Canelo Alvarez, I mean, the guy can outbox people. I mean, he outboxes people until he gets caught. His chin, very suspect. I mean, I might have a better chin than him. I mean, I've never been punched hard before, but with that said, any given day, man, if he can keep that chin tucked and avoid the big blow, he's going to push Crawford, man. He's going to push Crawford better than Crawford's been pushed the past couple of fights, in my opinion. And so anytime you bring two superstars from each side of the pond together, I think that's great for the sport of boxing, so...
I agree. I'm going to tell you, right, like I said, that fight goes to decision. It's not out of question for me to have Khan winning that fight. I think it's a dangerous fight for Crawford.
Yeah.
And I kind of agree with what Justin Bright said. I don't understand the matchmaking of it really, though, because Khan has been so inactive and really not at the top for a couple of years now. But he has not been beaten up badly.
So he's staying low mileage, kind of.
Yes,
Yeah.
and he's fast. He's sharp. He can fight. You're right. Nobody's really beaten him other than a knockout. He was winning all them fights and against good opponents. And let's go back on that also. Yes, he has been knocked out, and I know that. So obviously we know that he could be knocked out at any time. But he also fought a lot of power punchers and went to decision with them and beat them and got hit and stayed up. So you just never know. I mean, I think the only bad habit that Khan has sometimes is that he kind of admires his work and leaves that chin out there, and he gets caught on it.
I'm actually really excited for that fight, believe it or not. I mean, so we'll see what happens with that. But no, you're right. It's one of those fights, I think if it does go to a decision, it's probably a 50-50 chance that Khan wins that fight. So
Exactly.
should be a fun one.
Anthony Yardy, Fatty folks. Anthony Yardy, one of UK's best prospects, could be next for Kovalev. Do you think it's too soon for Yardy, or can he take advantage of an aging Kovalev? I think right now, anybody, the Kovalev is open for anybody to beat because of his age. And going into that, like, here's my thing with Kovalev. A lot of people always got something to say about his camps. Like, oh, Kovalev trained really hard his last camp. And just like everybody was saying for the first fight with Alvarez, he trained really hard, and he's going to be, he quit the bullshit, and camp's going good. I'm sitting back, I'm just like, well, let's just see fight night, because I know how that goes. I know that even from the people on the inside that you're not always getting the truth, or nobody really knows what's going on. And look, he came out and he said that he overtrained. And then after he lost, you had people saying that he didn't train. That he wasn't training. And so we do know he was dead tired in the 7th round. And I would say more so he was dead tired, because it's not impossible to overtrain, but it's really, really hard. It's a lot easier to not train hard enough than it is to be overtrained. This fight, he goes in with all the shit going on, legal issues, okay? And he was in good shape. I mean, he got tired in the last round. He may have been tired before that because he didn't go crazy in this fight, but he still was able to get past the 7th, the 8th, the 9th, the 10th, the 11th, and 12th. So the camp that everybody was talking about him being in such great shape for, he was dead tired and he got knocked out in the 7th round because he couldn't breathe. And then the camp where everybody kind of like, he's washed up, he comes out and he looks good. It's really hard with Kovalev to know what fighter is going to come out, It's hard for me to pick. And again, he's also a little aged in the sport. So, it's frustrating sometimes when you keep hearing all this shit. It's like, just watch the fight. Let's see what happens. But can Kovalev be beat now like that, Yardy? Absolutely. I mean, Kovalev is getting older.
35, yeah.
Yeah, and we don't know what is going to happen with these legal issues, if he's going to do time, if he's not going to do time, what toll that stress took on the body. He's stressed out about it.
And it hasn't been settled yet, so I mean, usually stuff like that you see settled out of court by now. And so I'm telling you right now, this thing's going to court in some kind of regard. I'm pretty sure of that. So yeah.
So I think for the most part in that fight, listen, Alvarez in the last fight, Kovalev was winning the entire fight, and we all knew that. But Kovalev got dead tired, and he couldn't even stand up. He could have got hit with a jab probably and lost that fight. I think this fight that he did a better job of controlling the action. Seventh round, Alvarez came out like the fight before in the seventh round, trying to take him out, and I thought that was one of Alvarez's better rounds, was that seventh round of that fight. But no, I don't think that was anything that Kovalev changed much, other than the fact that he was able to go 12 rounds. That was the only difference that I seen in that fight, was that he paced himself a little bit and was able to go 12 rounds. Like he said, you know what? I got tired of shit the last fight. I'm not going to let that happen again. I'm not getting knocked out this fight. So guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to go run extra miles, and I'm going to train like I'm supposed to. That was the only difference. It's not fucking rocket science. It's not trainer. No trainer is going to come in an 8-week camp and change you, especially Kovalev, after that long of a period of time. So it was more Kovalev buckling down, I think, in that fight and in that camp, and that's what happened.
At what point, when you watched that fight, did you realize Kovalev's not running out of steam this time? I think for me, it's probably around the sixth round. He just looked sharp.
What was that? I'm sorry.
I said, at what point when you watched that fight did you realize? I kept kind of waiting for Kovalev to start kind of fading.
I was too.
I think maybe around the 6th, 7th round, it looked like he was still going fast enough. I said, you know what? I think he's got this.
Yeah, because it's weird. Because the first Andre Ward fight, he was good, and that's why it was a close fight.
Yeah,
and it went to decision. Second one, it was taking that away. Andre Ward was a pound for pound king.
Yeah.
But Kovalev got tired in that fight. That's the thing. Like if Kovalev, who's in shape, comes to fight, he's dangerous, and it's hard to pick somebody to go against him in that. I mean, it really is. So that's why I always say, like, I don't know. It's when it comes to picking who do you got in this fight with Kovalev and this person, I'm kind of like, depends what Kovalev's coming. Like what camp he had. So.
And I don't like doing media reports, but you do read stuff that sometimes he's difficult to work with, and he kind of marches by the beat of his own drum. But as I said, man, I don't do hearsay. I'm not a big fan of the media when they start reporting stuff like that. Yeah, they don't know facts.
Julian Johnson says, lots of people posting the show on boxing pages right now. My notifications are off the chain. Ah, cool, Julian. Try to answer some of them. They're talking shit.
Timothy Gordon.
What's up, Scott?
Timothy Gordon chimed in with the whole transatlantic thing and saying, especially in the heavyweight division, you're starting to see on message boards a lot of discussion on the U.S. versus the U.K. And so I truly think there is a United States versus U.K. rivalry in boxing right now, and it is topped off at the heavyweight division with the whole A.J. Wilder thing, Fury and all that. So
I think the U.K. holds a lot of animosity towards United States fighters. You know what I mean? For some reason, I don't know why. Hey, you know what? The UK got some talent coming out. I know we always say it like, how many chances? They really don't always pan out. A lot of the guys, you know what I mean? But right now they got some talent coming in. I mean, I can't lie about it. I think right now is just the whole boxing in general is hot. I mean, almost all the weight classes, you got a shitload of talent. I mean, it's deep in every weight class.
I realize London's huge, but you take a look at the UK and the population of the UK, it's pretty incredible what they're doing in boxing with the amount of population. I mean,
they got everything. They got all the good actors. Half the movies you see now, these new guys come out, and I'm like, oh, that dude's good. And then I hear him in an interview, and he's fucking British. I'm like, God,
Hardy? I know.
I thought he was from New York.
I tell you what, man, they're putting actors out like crazy.
All the singers, all the actors.
Yeah, nothing against. I love. I had a lot of fans from the UK, and I love the people over there, in the UK. But when I found out Hardy was British, I was like, oh, what the fuck? That dude's a badass, man. Okay, you know what I mean?
Did you see that show Taboo that he's in?
No, but I just, dude,
it is awesome.
The drop was unbelievable.
Have you seen Taboo?
I haven't seen.
You must watch the show Taboo. The second season should be coming out soon.
What's it on? Where's it on?
I think it's on I think it's an FX show.
FX show. Okay, I might be able to go back then on my smart TV, maybe check out. Yeah.
Did you ever see the movie The Drop with him and James Gandolfini? One of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah. And that movie Warrior, he did that MMA movie.
Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a tough movie.
Bane.
Who is Tony Anthony Baker? I mean, Parker?
Joey Johnson talking about Josh Taylor out of Scotland. In fact, I saw some Josh Taylor news today, actually. I'm not sure what it was. Nothing like injury related or nothing like that. I think they're just, I think I saw something on Twitter
All right,
about.
hold that thought. Dennis Rice says Tom Hardy's the man's man. He is.
I think I saw somewhere on Twitter talk about some possible next foes for Josh Taylor. Possibly something with that World Series that they got going on for division. Maybe the money's not kind of being right with that whole thing going on right now, but the promoter of it saying that, the money will be there, but we'll see how that pans out.
I wonder if James Dominguez would smell Tom Hardy's hair without making eye contact, James. James is big with
He's all
that.
about the eye contact.
Is he? With
He likes the eye fuck when he fucking on somebody's leg.
James knows about that, though. He
See,
he calls me out on it. Kelly, during your walkout fight, have you thought, maybe I shouldn't have taken this fight, but fuck it, let's go? Yeah, the Miranda was a big one. Believe it or not, well, before I started walking. And because, a lot of fighters get them nerves. But as soon as that got to that walkway, I think that was like the fastest time anybody's ever got to the ring. I think I literally ran to the ring, like, because I was in that mode. Like, I wanted a game plan that I had was go in there, take the fight to him, back him up. And so I just got to the fucking ring, man. I did. Dude, I ran to the ring, and even the comments, I think Larry Merchant mentioned it, like, boy, did Pavlik get to the ring quick. Big Baby Miller is next, big U.S. heavy. Hey, I'll tell you what, I think it's going to be, I think fighting Big Baby Miller is going to be harder than what everybody thinks. He's going to be a hard guy to beat. He's 300-some pounds. It's going to be hard to knock him out. He can take a shot. And then not only that, he's 300 pounds. He's going to be leaning that body on people, and that's going to keep people tired trying to get him off. And not only that, he throws a shitload of punches around for all 12 rounds. So to keep up with the punch output, then push that big body around, I think he's going to be a threat to a lot of heavyweights.
Is him and Joshua, is that confirmed? I mean, is that been
I don't know if that's confirmed. That's
I've seen people clowning that, actually. Though. I'm like, why are you clowning that matchup? I'm all for that matchup. I'd love to see that fight, actually.
That's going to be a tough fight.
I'll tell you another heavyweight to keep up.
I may actually take Big Baby Miller in that.
I'm telling you, man. And I'll tell you what, a young kid from up in Michigan. His name's Jermaine Taylor. He's a small heavyweight though, but I've seen him fight a couple of times. He's won national titles in America, but he reminds me a little bit of like a Chris Bird.
Okay.
I
Slick.
he's slick, man. Nice kid too. I mean, he's a student of the sport. Constantly, he goes to different camps and stuff. He was working out in Pittsburgh. He was working out with Rod Sulka for a little bit and stuff like that. So
A lot of people don't like Rod Sulka.
oh man, he should never wore them trunks. But
That was dumb.
I'll probably see Rod. I'll probably see him next Saturday up at Mount Air at those fights.
Oh, okay.
I imagine Rod will be up there or whatever, but I won't make comment on that. But no, keep an eye out for Jermaine Franklin. He's from Michigan, Saginaw, Michigan, I think.
Lee Man Paulie on the money again, Kelly, with Miller. 90 punches around and a good body puncher. He's a live dog. Absolutely, he is.
What I am taking Miller in that if it goes down.
I think I may. You know what? Because I've had an outstanding record on here in the last 2 years, so I think I'm due to take. I may even put money on that one.
You know what? I'm gonna mark that down.
Thank you, Becky.
Gone,
Guys, it's Tyson Fury, the pound for pound #1 heavyweight right now. Fury did beat Ladd and Wilder. I have him. Now, that's not saying that I guarantee he's going to win the rematch, but as of right now, I do got Fury #1. Because I think he beats Joshua.
Becky Toth, Kelly, you look great. So I'm chopped liver over here. All right, thank you.
You look fantastic.
Thank you.
Oh, smack. I forgot my fucking wardrobe today.
Kind of a big deal.
Johnny Todd. I really think Miller versus AJ is 50-50. I agree, Johnny. That's a fight that, again, like I said, I may have to take Big Baby in that fight. Now that I really think about it, the way he fights, the amount of punches he throws, his chin, his weight, that all comes into play. Jennifer's watching.
Jennifer.
Yeah, but going back on again with the Alvarez and Kovalev, yeah, it was frustrating. You know what I mean? Because I'm over expecting, and I should know better. Because I remember when I was fighting, just how the camps are and how people in the words, and that's why you keep people away from training camps and this and that. It was just one of the things. But let's go into the Lopez fight. Does anybody want to talk about the Lopez fight? Asani, hey man, we're working on it. We're going to see. Stay tuned to the punchline. We'll let you know on the comeback. We'll see on that one. That's going to be a process. It's going to take time. Yeah, as I had mentioned before, that could be 2 weeks from now. I could go run again and say, you know what, screw this. I'm not doing it. The great thing about it is the pressure's not there like when I was fighting. You know, like when my career was going on. There's a lot of pressure, and a lot of fighters know what I'm talking about. Right now, you know, it's kind of like it's up to me. You know, this is not a money thing. It's not a that I was disappointed with my career. That's why I'm not giving no answer right now, because I'm not sure if I'm going to make a comeback. I just got the itch and I want to do it. I was a fighter, born that way, I guess. And you know, so it is what it is. I just want to do it again. It's not for anything else. It's not for pride, balls, money. It's just because
So when that Fight Nights report came out and then local media kind of picked up on a little bit, I'm going to tell you something. So I got a Youngstown-based boxing website. It's pretty much the reason why I got in touch with Kelly and I'm here. You wouldn't believe how much my inbox blown up. I couldn't imagine how much your inbox was blowing up. But I actually had local sports writers and radio hosts like DMing me, sliding into my DMs, and they're all like, "So, what do you know?" I'm like, "Dude, listen. If you read, you know what he said. You know, what I mean, he said, you know, this is a process to go through. I want to discuss, you know, it's something to discuss with the family." So I said, the best thing you guys can do is, and what I'm going to do is, swing, see what happens.
yeah.
See what happens, and that's why it came out. I mean, I did message Kelly, like, "Hey, what's going on here?" You know, but
The fucking coaches curbstone they talked to me in 8 years, and they called me all of a sudden. They want me to go
Right.
speak at the engagement. Hey, I'm going to answer the questions they ask. I don't know how they're going to like them, but I'm going to be very straightforward, right to the point.
That's why I told people. I said the best thing you guys can do right now is just kind of respect his privacy in the matter and see what happens. I mean, you know, and take it from there.
Let me go. I'm going to hit 2 questions back to back. I'm going to do one YouTube, one Facebook. Damon, hold on 1 second. Fatty Folks goes, Miller resume is so bad though. He beaten no one anywhere near AJ level. Charles Martin crumbled under AJ's power. We didn't really know much about Miller's chin in boxing until he faces a big puncher. He fought guys big enough in the heavyweight division, and it's a good point that you're bringing up, Fatty, but here's my take on it. He's still in there fighting heavyweights and big guys, and they were decent opponents. But again, you know, I did see with my own eyes, and it don't matter who the opponent is, I did see him throw 90-some punches around. I do see the fact that he's 300 pounds and that he puts the pressure on the fighter, and you're going to have to try to keep a 300-pound man off of you. Keeping a 300-pound man off of you who may only throw 10 punches around still gets tiring to a heavyweight. You're trying to push that big body around, let alone a guy who is firing 90 punches on top of that. Anthony Joshua has a little bit of trouble with muscle endurance and gets tired. Maybe the first couple rounds, I don't know what's going to happen if you can take him out, but the longer that fight goes, the more interesting it gets. And that's just my take. Kelly, were you hard on yourself after a loss, considering you didn't lose to just any bums, but to one all-time great in Hopkins and Hall of Famer in Martinez? No, I wasn't mad at myself. I was mad at the situation. Not going to hop into it. I was more mad about the situation, and those fights didn't ruin me. They didn't ruin the career. It is what it is. You know, you got to suck it up. I didn't make any excuses after the fights, and I just moved on and went on to the next one. But yeah, you're a little hard. You want to win, but I didn't like beat myself up on that.
There's a question here. You guys excited to see Tank fight this weekend since Mars pulled out? Did that kill the fight?
Yeah, you wanted to see him fight Mars. You wanted to see what Tank does against a guy like Mars. I think that was a great matchup on paper, but yeah, it's unfortunate. So I think after this fight, that they really need to find another opponent that's going to go in there that the fans are going to be anxious to see. They got to make a move, and that's what I want to get into also. depending on the time with the Lomachenko situation and everything else going on. But Damon goes, who wins, Lopez versus Ortiz Jr. when they fight, if they fight? All right, right now I'm going to go, I know it sounds crazy, and I'm very, very close. I'm going to lean towards Ortiz Jr. Here's the reason being. Teofimo Lopez is an unbelievable fighter. I mean, he's skilled. He does everything phenomenally. Unbelievable power. He gets a little too excited though in his fights because he has so much talent that he hasn't been tested yet on that, and he gets a little anxious in there and sometimes leaves himself wide open. Against a guy like Virgil Ortiz Jr., that's very dangerous. And with Virgil Ortiz's power, it's not going to be a flash knockdown, if he gets caught in the middle of that. I think right now it's a really close fight, evenly matched. I hope they don't fight right now. I hope that fight is in another 2 years. I think they could be mega bucks for both of them, and that's what I would like to see. But right now I'm slightly leaning towards Ortiz Jr. I mean, he has a little bit more experience. He's been, I think, against a little better comp. So I'm gonna head with him right now.
I like that Lopez. He reminds me a little bit like Prince Nazim Hamid a little bit. His flamboyancy in the ring, doing the backflips.
I do.
I think
what do you
boxing
think
kinda
about
need like a villain like that a little bit,
Yeah. What do you think about the his antics?
Like the shenanigans overall. I've never been one for that kind of stuff. That's why I kind of like the new wave of fighters, like the Mikey Garcias of the world that are real humble. They show up. I mean, they talk to the media. They put themselves out there. They don't act like they don't want to be there on media days or whatever. But in hindsight, I think boxing's kind of been missing a character like that. Like the who's the guy who used to smoke cigarettes in the ring? Ricardo Mayorga. Those kind of guys. So I don't know. I'm not saying that boxing's like wrestling in a way, but sometimes a villain's always kind of good for the sport.
Yeah, Damon, that's what we're getting into right now. Here's my take on it. It's marketing, whatnot, and he clearly stated that after the fight, in the interview.
Mm-hmm.
I think the sport's had those people though, and if if you want to be that type of kid that wants that attention, I mean, I met him personally. I think he's a fantastic person, him and his dad, and they're down to earth, they're humble. But my complaint was that little shovel dig that he did. The kid was hurt. What's his name? Diego. What was his last name? He just fought his last fight. He was hurt, and I think at that point, show a little concern. If you want, like doing a flip and a little dance, and there was nothing wrong with that at the very beginning. You're excited, you just knocked the guy out. But when you go over and he's unconscious on the canvas and you do the shovel dig, that's taking a little too far. I mean, I've seen Mayweather, was a notorious bad guy in boxing, it seemed like, show his respect and everything else after a fight, especially after knocking somebody out. He made sure they were okay, and then he went on and was flamboyant and loud and everything else. That's the difference, I think. There's a line between being cocky or being confident and loud and being a bad boy of the sport, and then there goes into another part where you can start falling into that being an a-hole, or you know what I mean, or showing no class.
I get exactly what you're saying, man. Like, hey, to build up to the fight, you gotta build hype. You need that hype or whatever, and your shenanigans, during the fight, if you want to run your mouth. I see Montana Love all the time from Cleveland. He runs his mouth during the fight. But after the fight, my favorite boxing moment that I've seen of the 2019 so far is what transpired after the Caleb Plant fight, when forget who we beat, when he came up to him and said, you did this for your daughter, and they just sat there, they embraced. That was real men stuff right there. That was real talk.
It was. And then Caleb is awesome. We had him on the show. I thought the whole story leading up, class act. And again, I understand marketing. You had guys like Hector Camacho, who was arrogant and he got on people's nerves. But I seen Hector Camacho off camera, and he was a great guy. You know what I mean? So I get it. I understand. I was in the business. I know the marketing part of it and everything else. But what I'm going on is there's a line, a fine line. Yeah, you're between, and he's young, and I understand. And hopefully in the future, in a situation like that again, he could do the backflips, he could do the dancing, but for me personally, I would like to see a little bit of concern or make sure the opponent's okay before he goes to that next level with that. And I like the kid. I don't dislike him now or anything like that. I have a lot of. I like Tifimo. I truly do.
Live and learn. So hopefully he learned from it.
Yeah. Yeah, like Sergio says, I thought the same thing with Floyd. Floyd never went that far. Not a smart move by Tifimo. And I agree. What's up, Sergio?
Hey, we got 2 Sergios back to back. I need to change my name to Sergio.
Chris Hardy goes, hey, Chris, are you related to Tom? I thought that was funny. All right. Did you ever lift weights when you fought Kelly? If so, how were you able to maintain hood balance between size and strength to maximize your power? Chris, I did. But I did a very lightweight, a lot of reps. I also did the Ironman warehouse where there's a lot of functional strength training and cardio training. So it was a mixture between both. When I lifted weights, it would be probably a total of like 500 to 600 reps on that body part with really lightweight. So it wasn't building muscle. That was more for the muscle endurance. And then doing the functional strength training, in my opinion, and what I've known over the years, it don't build muscle like pounding heavy weight. And it's that's where you get strong and you're not building muscle size. You're not taking your muscles not taking oxygen, and blood to try to fill it up, and your muscle endurance is a lot better and you can breathe better. So yeah, I did lift weights and I did it the right way.
Kelly made flipping tires in Youngstown cool.
Dude, listen, I'm not going to take the credit on that, but I'm just curious. I know before the Miranda fight when I was doing that and I was hitting a car tire with the sledgehammer and pushing. You didn't see all that shit in the UFC with the big tractor tires and all that. I'm not saying I created that because back in the day, it's fucking Rocky movies. Sylvester was using an axe to cut wood, which is kind of the same thing as the sledgehammer.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, like, when I started doing that and HBO showed it in the countdown, then all of a sudden I really started noticing all the other sports doing shit like that, that functional training.
No, I swear you
I think I was a
revolutionized
trend.
it.
I think I was. And Ironman warehouse wasn't even open yet. I'm not saying Dunner wasn't doing that in Youngstown. I think he was doing something like that down at the Y. But the Ironman warehouse wasn't even open yet when I was doing that. There's a line between trash talking and being disrespectful. I agree with you. And I don't want to knock Tifimo too hard on that because, again, he's young. Still early in the career. And maybe when he went home, he thought about it, and they come back and they say, you know what, next time we're not going to do that. Like, I'm going to be cocky. I'm going to be who I am. But when it comes to a situation like that, maybe that's what he got out of that. Old school you did, as Kelly says.
I flip car tires.
Yeah, we do. Hey, we got some right here. But getting into that too, with the Lopez situation and the Lomachenko. I think with Lomachenko, and it's not all his fault going into that now, because that was a big thing that I kind of wanted to tap on after watching these fights. So if I get gas in Youngstown after the HBO training watch. Yeah, Youngstown's pretty tough, man. But I think with Lomachenko, Top Rank is going to have to make a move here pretty soon, though. Because I'm a huge Lomachenko fan myself, but they're going to have to go after the Mikey type fights, and I think Tifimo is a little early right now, but I want to say by the very end of, at the latest, the end of 2020, they got to make that fight.
I actually put that in my notes here. Brainstorm. I say I want to see that fight before it's too late. Before it's a shell of what Lomachenko was. Wanted real complete downslope. So I want to see that fight with Lomachenko still, fairly in his prime. But no, I agree with you. Before 2020.
I mean, and I know it's weird because I'm not one to rush anybody, and Tifimo I still think needs a little bit more experience. But I think that's the fight that the fans are going to want to see. Like Lomachenko's coming to that point where he has to take one of these type fights.
Yeah.
He has to fight Mikey Garcia or even a Tank. You know what I mean? Gervonta Davis. I think that's what the fans are looking for right now.
There's some big fights out there.
The next fight with Comey, he beats Comey. Granted, Colombians and Africans, them guys from like Ghana, they can hit, man. And I'm talking about his power, like even a jab, it wears on you. Comey's always going to be a threat to anybody. Don't get me wrong on that. Overall, though, I think Lomachenko boxes his ears off and wins the fight, outpoints him. But I think they're going to have to, yeah, Sergio, I think Comey's dangerous because of his power. I mean, against anybody. But I still see Lomachenko winning that fight, and maybe even stopping him by, frustrating him or just beating him up, peppering him to death. But I would like to see Lomachenko here soon take one of them fights. Like, take Mikey Garcia after the Spence fight, or look at the Gervonta Davis fight, or like I said, maybe even middle of 2020, take a Tifimo, or if they move Tifimo a little quicker now, if they give him in his next fight, they give him a big fight, say September or May or June, and they give him a pretty big fight. You could probably turn around at that point and put him in there against Lomachenko, but I would like to see a little more. So
it's gonna be fun to watch Lopez develop, and the kid's only 21 years old. I mean, when I was 21, I was staying in my parents' basement drinking PBR. I mean,
hey, man.
I was on that. Still am on that PBR budget, but no, it's gonna be fun. I mean, don't think about that. Only 21. I mean, we just celebrated Clemson winning the national title. Most of those kids were 21, 22 years old, and this kid's about 19. To make a push for a real title. I mean.
But he's there, and that's like the new trend in boxing, kind of.
Yeah, it's almost like tennis, man. Yeah. I mean, guys are winning these titles and championships at younger and younger ages.
I'm not a big fan of it, but it's happening, though. You know what I mean? It's kind of like this day and age. I'm not a big fan of kids having to learn not write in cursive, or they don't tell time on a regular clock with hands.
That's fucking weird.
And they're allowed to use calculators. But,
yeah,
but the whole thing is that's society now, and that's the way it is. So why would I teach my kid how to read a map and this and that when they got phones and they got to learn how to use this?
When the zombie apocalypse comes.
Yeah, I was doing first.
That's true.
I was doing first grade math with my daughter, Tane. Like it's like solving for y. It's
but
like,
they'll have us. So that's what I'm saying. Like everything's changing, and again, I'm not a fan of these kids fighting younger or that early in their career, but that's what the guys are doing. It seems like Top Rank's like one of the only promotional companies that ain't moving their fighters that fast.
We've talked about that before too. Yeah.
Damon goes, guys, Billy Joe Saunders wants Triple G and Andrade. May be his mandatory. Does Billy Joe beat either? It's hard for me to answer that one right now, Damon, because we still haven't seen enough out of Saunders. As of right now, no, I don't see him beating Triple G. Andrade, I think that it would be a hell of a fight. I think that's a good matchup, and I think that would be a good test to see where Saunders is at against Canelo, Triple G, Danny Jacobs. I think that's a good fight for him. Eastern Euro guys fight for belts. T15.
Oh, we're back on the Euro kick here.
There's Jeff. Thoughts on Kovalev. Canelo started a trend at 22 fighting Floyd. Yeah, but Lazy, he was also pro for a while before that too, though, and had a good amount.
Pro 15 over there in Mexico.
Yeah, and had a good amount of fights. Granted, they weren't great, big fights where you got experience, but he had that many fights. So
BJ's would have to box. I just read BJ's.
Henry Ford goes, "What's your thoughts on Caleb Plant?" I like Caleb, and my only thing is that I think he needs to fix a little bit of the conditioning. And I think that he's a sound fighter. Other than that, I truly do. And I'm sure he'll go work on it. I mean, he was on a big stage. It was a title fight. Nerves come into play. First time being on that stage like that. So I give him a pass on that. And, I think he's a terrific fighter.
So you see his fight in January of 2018. It would have been a year ago pretty much. He looked like a whole different fighter this time out. I mean, I was impressed with Caleb. I was, I had my reservations going into that fight just based off of that fight, what I saw out of him. But he silenced me, and he looked like a real champion. He looked like a guy that's going to be able to defend his belt. And I'm telling you, man, he's fighting for a cause. So
exactly, and that's why I say that's my only thing with him. Work on that because he faded, and that fight could have ended. But other than that, I think Caleb's. I think he's going to be a great world champion. Just not in the ring, but I'm talking about for the sport of boxing. So,
Nashville, Tennessee.
Henry Ford. No, I'm not. I'm Slovak, which is kind of close in a way. Spence seems like he's taking Mikey light. David, I hope not, because Mikey's fighting, man. Mikey's getting in shape. He's coming to fight, so you can't take a guy like Mikey just because he's coming up 2 weight classes. You can't take him light, and especially that looks worse on Spence if Mikey comes in there and beats him. You know what I mean? Spence. Daniel Pearl, Eubanks Jr. versus DeGaulle. Oh man, DeGaule's.
You talk about James DeGaulle?
Yeah,
The guy that Caleb Truax worked?
yeah.
Truax just cut the ring off on him all night.
I don't know how to be a good one. I don't know too much. I seen him fight, but I'm not. I'm just being honest.
I don't
haven't
think
seen
DeGaule's
enough.
shoulders are good. He just...
I ain't seen enough to give a pick on that. Unfortunately, guys, I pay attention to a lot of boxing. I know what's going on, and I know what goes on behind the sport. But James is the guy that watches almost every fight, and I'm the guy that has a hard time getting to all the fights.
It's hard to follow all these fights. I mean, it's, you know, myself, I try to keep up. We're really regional. Youngstown, Pittsburgh, Cleveland from the website. So I get all my national news watching the Punchline, scrolling through the comments. So I mean,
Yeah.
this if it wasn't for this show, I'd really be lost on the national boxing scene.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
Oh man, it's like school for me.
Derek says if Mikey wins, I wouldn't be shocked at all. Very underrated for some reason. He is, Derek. And I mean, I go on these boxing groups on Facebook and everything, and it just seems like everybody wants to bash him. You can't win. He takes a fight with Spence, and the only fighter in boxing that has the balls to do that. Guys in his own weight class don't want to fight Spence, and he jumps up 2 weight classes, and they're calling him crazy, he's stupid, this, that, blah, blah, blah. Like, give the guy credit on that at least. You know what I mean?
Damon's got a good question.
What's that?
Floyd was boxing since he's been able to walk. Mikey could be been boxing since he's been able to walk. How much does that play in the ring IQ?
It plays a lot. It does. But, you know, you could have guys that just live in the gym and never really learned anything either. I mean, they learn because they're in the ring. And that's another thing that I kind of go on a lot of times. You hear, like, certain fighters talking that were world champions, and they get knocked for not knowing the sport. But they do. You know, they know enough to know in all the fights, especially on a world championship level, what's going wrong, what they got to do to try to change it, and things like that. That's how they became champ. But I think it does have something to play in it. I mean, you live in a gym, you're around it. If you're there from that young of an age, you're watching other people too. It's just not your training and what you're doing. You're watching some of the all-time greats, and you're watching the guys that are 10, 15 years older than you fight, and you're watching the pros. You're watching the top amateurs. It's a learning process. That was a really good question, Damon. Shout out to Mr. Dominguez. Yep, James is out right now. He will be back, though. Bernard started boxing in prison at a late age and still defeated guys who went to the Olympics and trained as a baby. Yeah, Lazy Fat, he did. But you know what, also? Bernard, and not every fighter was like Bernard Hopkins. Bernard put all of his time to boxing. I mean, he became a student. And people use that term lightly. I mean, but Bernard really, really studied the sport. He watched. He kept his body in fantastic shape. He trained like an animal. So boxing was literally like that was his life. He bled boxing. That's all he did all day long. And that's why he got to where he was at.
I always heard Bernard Hopkins say that the first thing he does when he sees a fighter is always rub them on the shoulders, and you can tell if they've been in the gym or not.
Yeah, it's true. Frank Karen goes, do you guys think Broner is overrated?
I think Bronner has the skill set. I think Bronner's own worst enemy's himself. Himself is his biggest opponent. I saw spurts of him looking good his last fight when he fought Vargas. But he fights too, you know, well, he let his hands go early this next fight, you know, against Pacquiao. We never saw it. I don't know. I question why he's in the sport of boxing. I don't think he's in it to become a world champion again, per se. I think he likes the limelight. He knows once he's done with the sport, there's no limelight going to be falling around no more. He's not going to be on TMZ every other day. Every time he gets arrested in Florida, it's not going to be on the news. He strives on that. I mean, we're talking about a guy who flushed a $100 bill on Instagram. I mean, who does that? I mean, this is a guy who seeks attention. That's why I think he stays in the sport of boxing. Right now, he's a gatekeeper. He's going to be that guy. He's reminding.
But he's in a fantastic spot as a gatekeeper.
Oh yeah, he's going to make 7 figures every fight.
But not only that, he's one of them guys that has not taken a bad beating in a fight. So you don't have to worry about the wear and tear on him. And he's also good enough to where he could go out there in one of those fights against the world title and beat them handily and turn back around and be at the top of the sport again. I think that he's not overrated. I think that he has a problem executing game plans. And I think that's the biggest thing with him. And he don't let his hands go because I think he relies too much on his ability and some of his power, which hasn't showed up, that he's going to take people out at the end of the fight. And usually he picks it up when it's too late. Not overrated.
A lot of people hate Bronner. I personally, I'd love to see Bronner win one of these big fights. I mean, he started to remind me of Zab Judah a little bit. Zab Judah just kept hanging around, getting big fights. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but Zab was getting beat up too, though, with some of them fights.
Yeah.
AB's not.
I heard Zab was possibly in line for another big fight. He's probably, 42 years old now.
Yeah, I seen him actually at one of the last fights. I went up and he was.
How's he doing?
He looked good.
Yeah.
You know, he recognized me, and I kind of like recognized him first. I was giving him a look, and went up and introduced. We shook hands and talked. So
I had a friend who died of leukemia, but for us to keep in touch with each other while he was away at college, he started watching boxing. That way we always have something to talk about. And he's like, I want to pick my favorite fighter, and he picked Zab Judah. Yeah. And so I always had a soft spot for Zab Judah.
Sergio Bora goes, do you think Maidana took Broner's soul? Sergio, I think that's another thing that people usually say. I know they did it with me with Hopkins. A fighter, no. You go back, and that's why if they took the soul, a lot of the fighters would not go back to the ring and fight again. When I lost to Hopkins, he didn't do anything that ruined me. I didn't think any different going into my next fight. Again, I'll throw it out there. Not that Antonio Rubio was a world beater, but he did go on to win a world title after I beat him and stopped him. I went back into that fight. It wasn't even a close fight after the Hopkins loss. You put that shit in the past. At least I know a lot of fighters do that. So no, not a certain fighter ruins anybody. You know what I mean? It's just the way it is. Like, a strong fighter goes back in and they train in training camp for 2 months for the next opponent. I didn't go, when I went to go fight Rubio, I didn't train for Hopkins, so Hopkins wasn't on my mind. The loss to Hopkins wasn't on my mind. My mind was on Rubio and what I was doing for that fight and being in camp for that fight. So no, it don't have anything to do with it. It truly don't. You're welcome, Sergio. Good question. TJ says, if Mikey Garcia takes a bad beating from Spence, will it have a big negative effect on his career? When Kell Brook fought Triple G, it destroyed his career. Could the same happen to Mikey if he loses bad? Again, I just kind of explained that with Sergio. It all depends. I mean, I don't see that being the case. I think Mikey's in a good position no matter what. I think Mikey could say to himself, you know what? Maybe I bit off more than I could chew by jumping up 2 weight classes to fight a big fucking welterweight. And I think I'll just go back down to lightweight and defend my title for a couple $1 million and reign there. I think that's, from what I'm looking at, more of the concept. Mikey's fighting a big guy, and I don't see Mikey getting beat up that bad. But if he does, I think, him and his family and his brother, who's a fantastic trainer, will go sit down, go back to the drawing board, and then direct their career from there. Yeah, and if he wins,
it's a win-win situation. If Mikey Garcia gets handled, I'm not going to change my opinion of him.
Yep. Derek goes, X is the exact opposite of that. Consuming Pro, very elite level understanding, not a gifted athlete, and he achieved greatness that way. Absolutely, Derek. David goes, what's the hardest thing to teach an MMA fighter about stand-up game when they want to learn some boxing? Do you want to tap on that? I think I can just from stand-up.
Who you
I
got,
think in a
Jim Gray or
stand-up,
Ron?
how I would look at it from being a combat fighter and a ex-pro fighter, I know that some of the punches have to be different. Actually, from talking with Matt Cunningham when he did, or Matt Brown when he did the thing here, at the seminar. But I think that having to know how to throw the punch the right way, like a boxer, is a big factor and a plus, because we know how to throw punches. That's the only thing we do. But at the same time, I do know that they have to be in a certain stance to
A lot of guys want to have
a wider.
very wide stance.
Exactly.
To worry about the takedown.
Yeah, they have a wide stance. They worry about the takedown. They worry about if they miss their punch, the guy shooting in on them. So I think they're trying to get best of both worlds. They're trying to learn the boxing at the same time defending the takedown, or not leaving themselves wide open to be for a takedown. So, but boxing, if you could learn that and be able to add it into your stand-up game and into your MMA fighting, I think it's a hell of a plus. Tim Gordon. And a follow-up, who you got, Broner or Jim Gray?
Jim Gray. Is that even debatable?
That was fucking ignorant too, wasn't it?
Oh, man.
Why has the current era of boxing seen an L as the end of your career? The greatest fighters of all time have multi-digit losses. Well, Sergio, that's another good question. I think a lot of them stick around way past their prime. That's one issue. And then I think that some of your great fighters of all time, they learn. They learn from it. They take losses, and it's how you bounce back. And you've seen that with Ali and a lot of the other greats. Leonard.
Damon Martin.
What do you say?
Since the last time Brian hosted, what town in Ohio has the most road warned women so far? 29. Being that I came up Hillman to get here, Youngstown hands down. Oh man. I'm coming up. Marcus, straight my GPS is like turn right. Now a left onto Hillman. Why are you taking me?
Then you go through Youngstown and you go through Youngstown. You come into fucking Columbiana.
Oh.
That's a big culture shift.
I'm telling you, man. Yeah.
Michael goes, did you guys already talk about Kovalev? Yeah, we did, Mike. You go back, we actually touched on that at the beginning of the show. Doc Kovalev did pretty good and won in that fight. I don't think that Alvarez did anything different. He fought the same way he did in the first fight, and he just caught Kovalev in the 7th round. This time, I think Kovalev just moved around and was in a little better shape. And that's why he beat Alvarez this fight. I don't think it was anything to do with training or the trainer or nothing like that. I don't want to take any credit away from McGirt. I just think that Kovalev was in better shape. No, Derek, I didn't. I really didn't study many other fighters. I kind of did my own thing, worked on what I was doing wrong, and I obviously worked on what I was doing right. More cautious with taking L's because they now try to market their brand. Yeah, Esteban, that's true. Market their brand now with social media and endorsements. Fighters see more opportunities after they retire from the ring. TJ says you two are both rocking the cool T-shirts this week. Thank you.
Ryan Peppers.
Brian's is funnier. Yeah, you know what, Esteban? It's really changed because of social media and the different outlets now. Boxing is totally different. It's hard for me to even tap on it. I mean, social media was just really getting big when I retired. But I'm taking the L, even when I was fighting too, though, at a certain part of your career was horrible. I mean, it was devastating to a career. If you were a 15-0 prospect and you lost, you were kind of starting over again. And it was another hard, long road. So anytime at a certain point before you're a world champion, taking an L is crucial to a career, and it could set you back. And it also, the fans themselves kind of lose interest if you get a loss, depending on the matchup. Now, I state that, depending on the matchup. But if you take a loss before you win the world title, it's a big negative effect on a career. It truly is.
Unless your name's Tevin Farmer. I think Farmer, 4 losses before he won a belt?
Now there's somebody else too I could say that, but then that would cause some shit. No, not
Charlie
him either.
Z's never taken a loss.
No, he hasn't. There ain't too many Charlie Z's in the world. Mike Donahue goes, how much do you think a fighter should run per week? I'm a firm believer in like 3 days a week, and I would do 3 miles. You know, I think it's still good to do 3-mile runs. I think any more than 3 days a week becomes a pounding on the body. And if you're looking at the longevity of your fighter, I think it takes the wear and tear on the body. 3 days a week is good. Pick up the pad work. And then you also still got your strength conditioning on the days that you're not running. I think that's the way it should go. Who wins, Kovalev or Bivol, and who is the bigger puncher of them? Good question, Emilio. I got Kovalev, bigger puncher.
And as far as who wins, it depends which Kovalev shows up.
But that's the one fight where I say even if the Kovalev that showed up against Alvarez that could go 12 rounds, I still got to lean towards Bivol in that fight. I think Bivol right now is one of the top dogs at light heavyweight and super middleweight. So, but anything could happen in that fight because of Kovalev's power. But guys, listen, we have a short one today because my co-host got to go do his other show now.
Yeah, so hey, tune in.
I got him warmed up.
Yeah. So tune in as it's like hitting the what do you call it? The batting cages before the game. But
let me answer one more question before you start saying your goodbyes. David says, guys, Deontay Wilder has an 84-inch reach. In an interview, he was asked how much his reach plays into his advantage in the ring. His response was, reach ain't shit. If a man knows what he's doing, agree. I kind of agree with Deontay on that because a tall fighter with the long reach sometimes has to abandon that reach. Sometimes going into a fight, the shit just ain't working. Sticking the jab ain't working. It could be just how you feel that night, and nobody on the outside could tell. And sometimes it's easier for a big guy to go on the inside. And you could have an opponent that knows how to get under. I mean, if you're shorter and I'm fighting you, there's only so much I can keep doing this. If you want to get in, you're going to get in. And if you want to avoid the right, look at Mike Tyson, what he did. Yeah, quick head movement coming in. So
John Holmes had a 14-inch reach. I wouldn't say he wasn't shit. So.
Yep. Thank you guys for tuning in. Sergio, thank you. I appreciate that. Esteban, the YouTube people, thank you. Jeffrey, we will get the Viking back. We'll make sure we kidnap his ass.
So tune in 8 o'clock, westernreserveradio.com. Fight night in Youngstown. I got Matt Conway from Pittsburgh, 16-0 prospect calling in.
Look, motherfucker, you better leave that check over here before you go.
Oh, well, I'm not allowed to plug.
Pumping you.
But no, thanks for Kelly for having me here. Anytime James.
Hey guys, check out Brian's show. It truly is. Give it one more pop where they can reach it at.
WesternReserveRadio.com. Go on Facebook. Just type in Youngstown Boxing News too. Like my boxing page. A lot of Youngstown, Cleveland, Pittsburgh boxing stuff. I don't consider myself media. I'm not out there reporting non-facts, man. I just like to get the kids' names out there. Do interviews with some up-and-comers and stuff, and I just like trying to get the city of Youngstown back on the boxing map.
This is definitely a great show, and he does do. I'm not just saying that. I truly ain't. He does a good job. Their show, him and Vinny's show is fantastic, and he does do a lot for boxing on a local scene. And I think that's important just for boxing in general. If everybody in their own area put the time in like he did, boxing could definitely skyrocket again. And real quick, Derek, thank you, man. I truly appreciate it. And TJ says, great show, guys. I will try and promote it on Twitter and other outlets. Thank you, TJ. I appreciate it. Kevin. Guys, stay tuned. Go to the punchline.live. Subscribe, share, and ring that damn bell on YouTube. Thanks for tuning in, and we will be back. We're looking at doing Sundays at 7 o'clock. Also, I tried getting a hold of James about that. Throw feedback in on the show page. Let us know. But I think that's the best time to go. I think 7 o'clock, everybody's done with the family dinners. There ain't no damn mass that late at night on Sunday. There's no reason why you guys can't tune in. And a lot of other big shows do it, podcast. So I think Sunday is going to be great. Tune into that. And we will see you guys next week.